Okay, well, thank you for joining us this Saturday morning. We appreciate it. I am Dion Ingram. I'm the president of the BPOA of Los Angeles County. And with me today, I have some of my other board members. I have Jerome Gage, who's the Sergeant at Arms. I have Carl Lumpkin, who's a historian. I have Elise Norman, who's our treasurer.
Morning.
And we thank you for participating in our 10 questions with BPOA.
My pleasure.
Okay, so today we have Captain Britta Steinbrenner, who is one of the candidates for Los Angeles County Sheriff. Ms. Steinbrenner, we will start with you having 2 minutes to introduce yourself. You will then be asked 10 questions. For each question, you will have a 2-minute time limit to respond. At the conclusion of the interview, you will have 3 minutes for closing remarks. We'd like to remind everyone that our participation in the interview is not an endorsement on the behalf of BPOA. It is an attempt at the membership or for the membership to learn something about the candidate and for the candidate to introduce themselves to our membership. So with that being said, let's begin.
Thank you. So thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself. I am Britta Steinbrenner, and I'm running for Los Angeles County Sheriff. I have 35 years of experience. I've risen through the ranks from deputy through captain, and currently I oversee the largest command for a single captain. It's County Services Bureau, and I have 450 employees. I have a contract of $130 million that I oversee, plus a monthly overtime budget of $1 million and an annual operational expense account for another $1 million. I have worked numerous specialized units besides custody and patrol. And while working, I also pursued my education. I earned my bachelor's and my master's in business administration while raising 4 children. I am prepared to be the next sheriff. I have a clear vision. I have strategies to embrace community policing, restore credibility through transparency, rebuild the reputation of the Sheriff's Department. All residents should feel safe and secure in our area, and they should, when interfacing and interacting with our deputies, they should be comfortable. And throughout my career, I have gained a reputation of being fair, firm, and just. And I don't belong to a deputy gang. I don't have any deputy tattoos. I don't have any discipline. I don't have any shootings. I'm very proud of the exemplary record that I have. And I made choices in my career to work specialized units because I am a mom and I always wanted to be somewhere within my stations where I was close to home in case there was an emergency. And I really appreciate now that the laws and times have changed where dads are involved in helping to raise children and are not embarrassed to say, I need to take some time off. One thing that I want to stress is that I will never hesitate to make any decisions. I will implement the change that our department needs. And we need a better leadership. We need to regain our moral compass because we've lost our vision and we've lost the strategic goals on the direction that this department's going, whether it's 1 year, 4 years, or 10 years down. If elected, I will answer the questions before the Civilian Oversight Commission. I will work with elected officials. I will work with the community partners to implement long-term solutions to better our department. And I have a plan to address the increases in crime, the smash and grabs. I will eliminate the deputy gangs. I'm not going to ignore that they do exist, but when I take office, I want to start fresh. DOJ.
That's your time on that. Okay. Let's start with question 1.
Good morning, ma'am. Who are your 2 greatest influences and why?
So I have 2, Margaret Beard Cheney. She was a captain on the Sheriff's Department. I met her when I was a brand new deputy at Sybil Brand Institute, and she passed unfortunately about 12 years ago, but she was a mentor. She was a role model. The other one is Sandy Hutchins, and she was also my sergeant when I came on to the Sheriff's Information Bureau. and also SIB, the Sybil Brown Institute for Women. And both of these women guided me, mentored me. They taught me how to react, how to be tough, how to be determined. Because at that time when women came on the department, we didn't have all the pluses that we do now, which I mean all the support and the opportunities to advance in our career. And I watched how they went through a lot of the diversity, but they always were firm, they were always fair, they were always pleasant, and they never let any negativity change what they were here to do, and that was to be a public servant. And I wanted to emulate them because they had a lot of good, and people liked them and for who they are, not because of the rank that they held. Sandy Hutchins was our chief. Then Sandy Hutchins went to be the sheriff of Orange County. And she was just classy, she was professional, and she treated everyone with equality. And that's what I want to make sure people understand, that whether I like you or not, we're one family and we get treated the same, and we work together as one family collectively.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am. Thanks for participating.
Thank you.
If elected sheriff, what steps will you take to ensure the sheriff's department is actively involved in fostering the recruitment and promotion of qualified African-American candidates within the department?
Could I ask you to repeat your question because you broke?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
If elected sheriff, what steps will you take to ensure the sheriff's department in encouraging and fostering the recruitment and promotion of qualified African-American candidates within the department?
Well, first and foremost, I want to raise the percentages, because right now the African-American percentages within our department total for all our sworn personnel is 8%. And I wanted to get it up to at least 10 to 15%. But that starts with going to the high schools and recruiting high schoolers to let them know what law enforcement's about, going to the colleges and being part of their job fairs or career days, having internships to where you reach out to African-American students or even adults, because we don't do enough on the recruitment side, and I have to make it worthy of their time, and I have to have that motivation and that excitement for them to join the sheriff's department. And I will take other female, other male African Americans to go out there with me or with the recruitment team to kind of get that momentum going. And then I will also look out of state. I want to go back to out of state hiring. I want to go to military installations when they're being discharged from the military. I want to get them back in the loop and take the show on the road for recruitment. I worked personnel administration for 3 years, and we were contemplating that, but there was some costs associated with it. But I want to rejuvenate that because we have to be diverse. And right now our department is 53% Hispanic, and all of the diversity has to change. We have to balance it out. And I'm going to, at the same time, get the best person for the position. But also, if elected, I also want to bring an African-American, one or two, onto my executive command staff as well, because I need to make sure that all the ethnic minorities are represented. And whether we agree or disagree, but we work together to make sure that the voices of the community, the voices of our department are heard so that we can put the best team forward.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your response.
Okay. My question is, if elected sheriff, how will you create partnerships with the local entities such as community leaders, nonprofit organizations, et cetera, to facilitate positive working relationships between the community and the sheriff's department?
I'm going to start with the elected officials, the board of supervisors. We have to repair that relationship. Then the CEO, then we're going to go with elected officials, the mayor, even the governor. I want people to know who I am and what we stand for with the department. With County Services Bureau, I deal with many social services, the Department of Public Social Services, Department of Mental Health, and I have a lot of involvement in those communities. I also work with the Fred Jordan Mission, the LA Skid Row Running Club. And so all of these outer line communities, I want to bring them in, and I'll have a meet and greet. I'll use them as part of a task force, but people need to know who I am, and I need outreach to the community so they know what my values are, what my are, and who I am. And that is the start of it, but it starts with the board. And then also it starts internally so that the deputies and the supervisors and the command staff, they understand what the mission is. But then I also need to make sure that everybody's motivated, that they're on the same page so that we can work together as a team. Because right now everything's fragmented. Everybody is self-survival. Everybody's worried about their jobs. I want to change that. And then I'm also going to reach out to all the chief of police from the different communities within the county, because really when there's a mutual aid and when there's an emergency, we all have to come together. And it's not very nice to be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, John, hey, Sue, this is what we need, and we work together as a team. And right now, all of that's fragmented, and it's going to take time. This is not something that's going to happen overnight, but we have to work on it, and we have to be consistent with it.
Thank you.
Ma'am, what is your position and strategy on issuing CCW permits to civilians?
So I am not against issuing concealed weapons permits. I will tell you that, I'll share with you that when Block, Baca, Jim McDonald, John Scott, when they were in office, they were issuing anywhere from 100 to 349 CCWs per year. Over this last year, our sheriff has issued 2,167 plus CCW permits. Even for my security officers, they're also getting CCW permits. If it's for a valid reason, if they pass backgrounds, if they can show justification why they need it, then yes, I will support it. But just to hand out CCW permits because you're going to give me money or I'm going to give you some extra courtesies, I can't do that. And so I want to expand that unit because I believe it's only 1 or 2 individuals that are working in it, but I want to make sure I have a lieutenant, at least a lieutenant in that office to oversee it and to make sure that we have a justification, because we do assume the liability. And also they're also looking at members who have a CCW permit that they have to have an insurance for liability purposes. So I'm monitoring that as well. But I want to support, and especially for our security officers, so that they are protected, but that we're responsible and that everybody does not assume liability in the wrong category, because we have to make sure that we protect ourselves and the public.
Thank you for your response, ma'am.
Hi, good morning, ma'am. What are your hobbies?
My hobbies are, I love to run. After the academy, I didn't run for the longest time, but in 2012, I was at personnel administration and then never had a Baker to Vegas team. And so we put a team together with the whole idea of just running and finishing and beating the homicide unit. And that was in 2012. In 2019 for CSB, I ran leg 20 again. And the fact that I was hit by a car and I broke both of my legs and I have a knee replacement, my physician said I could never run again, but I love running. It clears my head. It gives me the energy, the exercise, and the fitness that I need. But then I also love to read. I was an AYSO coach. I was an AYSO referee. Because of my job, and especially at County Services Bureau, it takes up a lot of my time. But I like being outdoors. I recently joined a hiking team, so I like to hike on the weekends. So I like physical activity. Only because during the week we're inside, we're in front of the computer, we're at our desk. So I like being out in the fresh air and being able to meet other people. And then finally, to take my dogs around the block. I have 2 Pomskis. They're half Pomeranian, half Huskies. So nightly we go around the block.
Huh. Well, thank you very much, ma'am. I appreciate your answers.
Thank you.
Recently, the Commission of Peace Officer Standards and Training implemented biased and racial profiling training to acknowledge and help law enforcement communities. As a career law enforcement person, how do you think implicit bias has affected the law enforcement community?
I think, I'm sorry.
Let me read that again, ma'am, because I think I missed a part. Recently, the Commission of Peace Officers and Standards implemented racial bias and racial profiling training to acknowledge and help law enforcement officers understand how implicit bias, stereotypes, and racial profiling impacts the community. As a career law enforcement person, how do you think implicit bias has affected the law enforcement community?
I think it's put a negative spin on us. I think that they think that we profile individuals when that is not the intention. But I see that we need to make change. We need to have the training, and we need to keep up with modern technology, modern ideas, and what the perceptions are out in the community. And part of it is we need to be more vocal, more communicative. We need to have a more hands-on with the community, which I don't see happening because law enforcement right now is a little scared. We're hesitant because we don't want to get a lawsuit. We don't want to have unnecessary force. And we're trying, but it doesn't feel like the supervision is out there to protect the deputies and to be there to lead them and to guide them. And I really want, one thing that I really want to change, especially with the perception and the training, is how we do our bike stops. Not that we're just targeting a single race, but that if we're going to do the bicycle stops, that we can justify and articulate why we're doing those stops. So it's really changing the mindset, becoming more keen to modern policing techniques, and really being out there to support the public and being communicative. So when they have a question, especially at town hall meetings, I want to be honest and I want to be direct, and I want to tell them, if this is what you feel, then let me talk to you and let me help you work through this, because ultimately we have to get back together, and everybody has a perception, and I want to change that. I want them to wave at us. I don't want them to be fearful that we're going to stop them. And then finally, I want to make sure that I have diversity at all my patrol stations, because I want to make sure that I have African Americans. I want to make sure that I have the Asian Pacific Islanders, the Hispanics, the Caucasians. And that's going to take time, but we need that diversity to help turn that thought process around.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, what is the one thing about yourself you wish you could change?
So I wish I wasn't so stubborn when I was younger, only because I missed out on a lot of opportunity. And over these last 6 years, while I've been at County Services Bureau, I've had many grievances that I've had to handle. And I really had to learn to take myself out of Britta and put myself in the shoes of the employee, to understand what they were thinking, why they did what they did, and then also admire them for being truthful and trusting. And I wish I would have done that earlier on in my career, but we're so focused on working, promoting, running a family, raising kids, that we don't really get to take a moment to pause and realize what a great career we have and the people that we work with. And every time I have a grievance, I've encouraged the deputies to talk, the supervisors to talk, tell me what happened, because your discipline can't go up. The discipline stays the same or it goes down. So they've really taught me that you can't be stubborn. You have to be open-minded, right? And you have to give everybody a chance. You can't hold grudges. And you always have to work on yourself. Like, you're always learning, you're always trying to better yourself. So, and you know, when you're 20s, you're different from the 30s. And so I've taken every decade and trying to make myself a better person, because I've reached my level. When I hired on, I always wanted to be a captain of a patrol station, but now I'm able to give back to the employees. And now it's like my turn to pay it forward, to see them excel and succeed.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. My question is, what do you believe is the biggest change the LA County Sheriff's Department needs to make?
Community policing and the involvement and the leadership of our personnel. We've lost sight of it. We've lost sight of investing in our employees, our deputies, our sergeants, our professional staff. We're worried and focused about growing. We're worried and focused about the public corruption unit. We're worried about the relationship with the board. But we have to develop our employees. And I see a big disconnect between the deputies and then the sergeants and the lieutenants. Sergeants and lieutenants don't want to supervise. They don't want to make any mistakes. They don't want to get in trouble. They want to be deputies' friends. You have to be a leader. You have to be a supervisor. One of the biggest things we always lose in a budget cut is training. I want to bring state-of-the-art training. I want people to be excited and motivated to go to training. And one of them is we're getting an EVOC center. I want to redo the weapons training range because it's been the same range since 1987 when I went through it. I want to give state-of-the-art equipment. I want to have state-of-the-art buildings. I want to make the department the number one where people look at us and say, wow, this is a one top class department. And that's going to take time. That's going to take through partnership, but we got to reinvest in our employees, bottom line.
Thank you, ma'am.
Tell us about your biggest failure on the job and what you did to learn from that experience.
In my 35 years on this department, I have never lost an employee. And it was June 15th of 2020 where I lost Security Officer Lino Flores. And he was a bright shining star. He had an infectious smile and he was going through some problems. And I saw him that day and I promised him that I was going to come back and talk to him because I knew something was off. I left. I had another meeting. I had another meeting. By the time I got to the office, I probably had 30 minutes left on his shift and I wasn't able to talk to him. 4 days later, he committed suicide with his duty weapon on his birthday. And I'll tell you, that took me a long time to get over because I wondered if there was something I could do to maybe he wouldn't have done that. And so for me, that's a personal failure because I wasn't there to help him, but we did some follow-up. It was already set in his mind that he was going to do this. But when you have that feeling of you got to do something, you got to do it. You have that woman's intuition, you have that sixth sense, but that taught me something. It's like never put off tomorrow what you can do today because you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. And so that was an eye-opener for me that I have to pay more attention to my employees. And I have, and I always have. One of the things is I always want to learn everyone's first name because that shows a sense of personalization. But so me, that was a failure because I lost Lino, but I think he's in a better place. And it taught me a few things, especially to be more attentive, to be more aware, and to slow down because it's the office work, the phone call, that's still going to be there. But when you're dealing with a human life, that takes precedence.
That was moving, ma'am. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Okay, ma'am, your last question. How has your life's work prepared you for the position of Los Angeles County Sheriff?
So I've spent 35 years with the Sheriff's Department. I have an exemplary record, no shootings, no discipline. Over the last 6 years, I've been a chief of police technically for County Services Bureau because we're self-sufficient. Again, with my contract, with my employees, the fact that we have a detective unit, a dispatch center, a secretariat, training and scheduling. And I have been at this pace for the last 6 years, and I have been able to formulate my leadership style, which is collaborative leadership. I have worked with all different ranks. I have worked with all different executives. I have the board of supervisors. I have the sheriff. I have the district attorney. I provide security for 14 county clients. I meet with different department heads. And that has made me well-rounded to move up to the next step. And you don't realize that until you are able to sit back and reflect and understand why you're taking this next step. And I will share with you that I am only running and I'm in this position because I had several deputies come to my office last February and March and try to convince me to run for sheriff. they wanted me to run for sheriff. I'm not politically motivated. I want to be the sheriff for the people. I want to be there to move this department forward because this is not the department that I grew up in. And I really value how this department was when I first came on, family oriented. We worked hard. I want to bring that back. And so I look at all my diversity of assignments, custody and patrol. I work specialized units, Emergency Operations Bureau, Reserve Forces, Personnel Administration. So I'm well balanced and I have, I believe, the tool sets to move forward to make this a better department and to be your next sheriff.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am.
Well, thank you for your responses to the questions, ma'am. You now have 3 minutes for closing remarks.
So I just wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you. It would be a historic moment. I would be the first female sheriff in the history of the Sheriff's Department. I'm one of the female candidates running. But put that aside, I'm a law enforcement professional. I have dedicated 35 years. I believe in what this department is capable of. I believe in our personnel. And I want to make this a better department to where we are known for our community policing, not our deputy gangs. I want to have that team concept to where we work together and that we achieve all of our goals together and that we grow instead of taking steps back. I want us to be the model agencies that other agencies emulate, but it's not something that I can do alone. I can't solve homelessness alone. I can't the crime reduction, I can't handle that alone. It is a teamwork, and I have to have the support and motivation of the department, of our elected officials to turn everything around. And I believe I will be that change agent that is honest, that's result oriented, that will make all of you proud to be part of the Sheriff's Department. I've been under the leadership of 5 different sheriffs, so I've always taken all of their positives to create my leadership style. And I think there's such a bright future for us that we need somebody who's not a politician, somebody who cares genuinely, because what you see is what you get. I am Britta Steinbrenner. I'm nobody else. I'm extremely honest, forthright. And whether we agree or disagree, we're going to work together to find a solution and to move forward. And I will not embarrass people. I will not call people name. We are going to be a professional organization. So with that being said, I wanted to say thank you for this opportunity. I know that you have other candidates for consideration, and I just ask that you vote for the best sheriff to turn this department around. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate you spending a little bit of your Saturday morning with us to introduce yourselves to our members. Again, I'd like to note that participation in our interview is not an endorsement on behalf of the organization. It's an opportunity for you to speak to our membership. So thank you again. We appreciate it. And with that being said, we're done. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. It was nice meeting all of you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye-bye.